Welcome to the Balanced Badass Podcast, the show for multitaskers determined to stay balanced and badass without losing their minds. Every week, we help you manage your overflowing calendar and household, making sure you still have time to breathe, laugh, and savor that much-needed glass of wine at the end of the day. Think of this podcast as your weekly dose of practical advice, humor, and tough love, just like catching up with a friend who really gets it. I'm Tara Kermit, your personal growth coach, helping you handle how was your day without a meltdown. Now let's get into today's episode. All right, I am sitting down today with Nicole, the founder of Brave Heron Studio, and she is not your average interior designer. And I'm actually really jazzed for this conversation because I personally love interior design and decorating and creating space that is comfortable and expressive of who I am. So I'm very excited to talk with you. So Nicole is a seeker, an artist, and holistic designer who helps highly sensitive women and wellness-focused businesses create sacred, aligned spaces that support healing, clarity, and expansion. And honestly, after I just read that, I want to have a breath of fresh air. That just feels good. So my hope is that today we're going to talk about how the energy of your space really does impact your mood, your mindset, your overall well-being, and what can shift when you start designing your environment with intention. So after this conversation, listeners, you might rethink your office setup. You may look at your living room and you're like, this vibe isn't working for me anymore. And even just what messages your environment might be sending you without you even realizing it. So with that, Nicole, welcome to the Balanced Badass Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Tara. This is such a pleasure and an honor, and I'm really excited to speak a little bit more about what I do and how you can use interior design to be transformational in your space.
Yeah. Awesome. Like I said, I'm so excited for this. So before we jump into probably my personal interest and things that I'm excited about, I start every episode, every guest episode, I should say, with the same question. And I love this question because I learned so much about people. And that question is, what is something that you're loving in your life right now?
So this is a great question because I actually just started exploring a new, let's say, modality when it comes to somatic movement. It is so, I feel like it's a little bit of like a taboo, like, do I share? But I've recently started sharing this kind of journey, a little bit on social media and like with friends and things. I have started taking pole class, like pole fitness, pole
That is so
dancing.
cool.
It is so cool. It is so cool. I am addicted. I am all in. What is it? I started like the last 2 weeks before the end of last year. And so I'm on level 1. I'm like on this beginner's journey. I've got a beginner's mind, a beginner's eye, a beginner's body. And so it's like, it's really fun. And it's like a lot of embodiment, sensual movement. And it's a workout.
Oh, I bet.
It's like super, super intense. But it's so much fun. It's so much fun. So that's what I'm loving. That's kind of like when I'm not got my design hat on and, not doing other fun things for myself. That's kind of where you'll find me at the pole studio.
That is so cool. I love that. I have a dancing background, so anything in that world is fascinating to me. And I've always wanted to try a pole dancing class. I actually, right now, I've got a knee injury that I'm dealing with, so there will be no pole dancing in my future for some time. But maybe once I've healed and recovered and all that. But that is so cool. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm glad you shared that because, like you said, it can be seen as taboo, but it shouldn't because it's about building your confidence. It's about fitness and finding fitness and movement that you enjoy because so often we're putting ourselves into these boxes of like how we need to move.
Especially for women, like we put
Yes.
ourselves in boxes, and a society says like this is how you need to show up and this is what you need to do. And so even like, there are things that we not have to wear because on pole, there's this saying, the pole needs your skin. Like, so you're not really often
Yeah.
wearing a lot of clothes. So there is a lot of, I guess like accepting your body, like seeing yourself,
Yeah.
because you're in the
Yeah.
mirrors and that sort of thing. So it's been very, very opening and healing, restorative. It's just like it's bringing things into my life and opening my eyes to things about myself that I hadn't really considered in a while. And I'm late stage. I don't have a background in dance, and I'm I'm 40 plus. So it's like it's a real journey, and it's very exploratory, and it's really been expansive and like magical. So yeah, I would
Mm-hmm.
recommend it if you can get there. I have an injury too. Actually, I pulled my hamstring like a month ago,
Oh
so I'm
no.
still healing, but I haven't stopped because I'm just like I don't want to miss anything. I want to get
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd recommend it to a friend.
That's awesome. What I love too is that it's what a great way to like get out of your comfort zone, you know?
Oh my gosh. So it's so much that. Like it's so not what I would normally find myself doing. Like I am certified in yoga. Like, I did my 200 hours. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm used to moving my body. I've done weight training. I still do weight training. Like I'm pretty active, walking, that sort of thing, but not like this. And it's not like I don't dance, like, go to parties and
Oh
move and
yeah.
all that kind of stuff, of course. And moving in ways that I thought were like, oh, this is kind of sexy, but like not, this is like next level because it's just not for like, it's not about the male gaze. It's not about anybody. This is like for me, you know what I mean? And it's
Mm-hmm.
just, um, you know, I think women and people who are, I guess, who lean into, I guess, women centered thought, who are maybe feminist or like womanist in that sense, because there are men that are there too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Trans people, like it's very open. It's a very open type of community.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, just like, you know, slow, sensual. And even when we're doing fast songs, it's still about like just like enjoying your body for enjoying your body's sake, like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah. And it's so not it's an art form, but like not even adjacent to interior design, like not at
Yeah.
all. So that's why I was hesitant to share. When I started sharing, I was like, what are people going to think? And I was like, I don't know. Can I curse? I don't know. Like
Yeah, you,
basically,
you
I'm
can
like,
curse. This is a safe space.
okay. I'm like, fuck it. I don't really care what anybody
Yeah.
thinks. This is my one life. It's my one life, and I'm embracing all that is wild inside because good girl, fit in that box.
Mm-mm.
I don't want to fit in anybody's boxes. I'm not
Uh,
interested in that.
yes.
Yeah.
I say like as soon as I turn 40, I'm 41 now, and as soon as I turned 40, I was like in my fuck it
Yes. Did
era.
the shift? Like, didn't all your fucks just kind of like,
Like they just went away out the
yes.
window. Like I mean, it's fascinating. I quit my job. I do not care like how I look in as far as like in public. Like I don't put any persona on anymore. Like you get
Mm,
what you get. I mentioned that
mm,
earlier. Like when we were just chatting before we hit record, I was like, you get what you get with me. So
exactly.
and I think
You're
there's
right.
so much freedom in that. So I'm really glad that you shared that too, just because, when I talk about burnout, when I'm talking with folks, one of my first steps is like, we've got to get you into a world outside of your work because that can be so all consuming too. And so finding
Mm,
hobbies that get you out of your comfort zone, that are fun, that are not related to who you are identity wise as like a
yeah.
professional are so key too. So I love that. And I could probably do a whole episode talking about pole dancing. So maybe
We'll
another episode is in
circle
our
back.
future.
Okay.
But I do want to get to your professional work and what you do because, like I said, even just reading that description is like a breath of fresh air. So I want to start though with a conversation of before your studio came to life, before Brave Heron came to life. What was the journey that led you to kind of having this blend of holistic interior design, but combining it with healing work? Because, like you said, you're not like your average interior designer. There's something very different about the work that you do. So, was there a moment or experience that really just clarified this path for you?
Yeah, I talk about this a little bit. I give a little kind of snippet in on my website and talk about it. Um, there were a bunch of experiences. I think critical mass happened for me around 2018. There's a lot of I guess synchronistic events, things that were happening and kind of like dots connecting that I was not aware of because I wasn't paying attention. So I didn't have like the best childhood, had very traumatic kind of like upbringing. But then, did some therapy, did some things, and I kind of like was just pushing through. I'm a person, my parents are strivers, very, very high achievers. And so culturally I didn't grow up with a lot of like, you get time to like sit in your feelings and feel the things. And it's like, no, we don't have time for that. Like, you don't have
Mm-hmm.
time for your feelings. Like we gotta go, you got things to achieve, you have excellence and you've got to work twice as hard to be, just as good. And like all of that programming. Um, and that I think I carried a lot of that. And in the therapeutic world, they talk about the book, your body keeps a score. And I think my
Mm.
body was remembering all of these things, even though in my mind it was like, no, good. Yeah, I have some bad days. And I've always struggled with anxiety and depression. But overall, I was like, I just push through. Just keep going, just keep going. It'll work out. Around 2018, things just started to erupt. Like things, what was a whisper, for many, many years became a loud shout.
Mm.
Um, and so things just started to fall apart. Like my marriage, my health deteriorated, like extensively. Where I had lost tons of weight, and I was having these crazy headaches, and my body was swelling, and just like signs that everything was not okay. Um, and so my family encouraged me to go to the doctor, and they like couldn't figure out what was going on. And I mean, I think to the point of having a lot of trauma in your family, there are multiple people in my family, like immediate, and then grandparents who have autoimmune conditions, like multiple
Mm.
people. And we know that autoimmune is often linked to emotional trauma and not speaking your truth, not showing up authentically, right? So eventually I was diagnosed with um, lupus and like four or five other autoimmune conditions. And so that, and I was hustling, like really buying into that hustle culture. Um, Working this job where I worked on commission, and I was just trying to make it happen. Like,
Mm.
just make it happen, not sleeping, not eating right. And so, yeah, that kind of forced me to stop. I had to take a step away from my job. Had to figure out what I was going to do about my marriage. I had to look at the relationships and the people that I was spending time with, and how um, I was showing up around them, and how those experiences were making me feel. So it was like a gigantic pause. Um, and then I just kind of, in that experience, I decided, despite the feedback I was getting about what a life with these conditions look like, I was like, no, that's not going to be my experience.
Mm.
Additionally, I think 2 years prior, 2 or 3 years prior, my sister had been diagnosed with lupus. She has lupus nephritis. I have lupus SLS, which I thought was like, that's not possible. That's not genetic. Like, like, it doesn't, it's not like, you pass on blue eyes.
Right.
But apparently it runs in families that are extremely,
Mm-hmm.
um, so, yeah, I had kind of like been walked alongside her through that experience. And she, by the time I was diagnosed, she was doing really, really well, in remission. And, and I was like, no, I don't care what the doctors say, like I'm going to be good. And so I started on this journey, and I began to change my lifestyle. I, again, changed relationships, changed the way that I ate. I moved down where my parents live. They live in a rural part of the state. And so it's quiet there. They don't have street lights. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you can hear the foxes and the cows, and there are the bears wandering. And I went there. They've got fresh food, and my stepmother, God love her, she would cook for me all the time, and it just slowed my life down. Like everything
Yeah.
just went from like extremely fast to like slow motion. And in that time, you know, they lived by a river. I would get up in the mornings. I'd go walk by the river. I'd walk in the neighborhood. I just spent a lot more time in nature. I got into hiking, and again, just started to really work with my environment. I'd always have an interest in interior design. I had started um, previous to this, back in 2012. I started grad school and started, you know, pursuing a master's in interior architecture. But then because of like, you know, the anxiety and some of my like health issues, I just had to pause. Like it was just too much.
Mm-hmm.
I was burnt out. Like I
Yeah.
just couldn't do it all. Um, so yeah, I ended up kind of circling back, and I was just like, I was determined. I was like, I need to get in alignment. So just exploring like, you know, meditation and who I was and remembering the things that I liked, and just in nature, um, I began to like talk to source, talk to God, like this is not the experience I know I was meant to have. This is not who I am. This is not, you know, I know that I'm not going to be sick all my life. Like I just kind of like expressing all of these things. And I was like, I'm not going to accept that this is the way my life has to be.
Yeah.
Um, and so I started just like leaning into other tools, other modalities. Um, and yeah, I think once I moved into my own space and, you know, completely separated, started going through the divorce process, it was like, I've got to set up a home. I've got to set up
Mm.
a container. If I'm going to heal, I need like space to do that. I need space that's going to hold me and hold, you know, my transformation and these emotions and all of this stuff that I'm going through. And when I walk into that space, it's got to look good and it's got to feel good to me. That
Mm-hmm.
was really, really important because, you know, I'd been in a lot of chaotic environments and in places where just like, you know, maybe because not everyone has a design eye, but just like it's energetically chaotic.
Yeah.
And then maybe on top of that, like the way that it's laid out, it's maybe dark and heavy and maybe cluttered and all that kind of stuff. And that, you know, I've always been a very sensitive person, even growing up. My, you know, my birth mother will say, you know, you're always very high strung. Like you just felt everything.
Mm.
And my dad was like, you feel before you even think. Like everything is like sensory for you. Um, and so it was just that, like, what can I can create? Because I spend so much time inside. What can I create that gives me that same feeling that I have when I'm standing by the river or when I'm hiking up a mountain, that feeling that I am a part of something, that I belong, that I'm a part of a community, that I'm significant, that I'm special, and then I'm not special. Like I'm a part of all that is. How can I get that feeling all the time when I come home? Um, or when I go anywhere, you know, when I go to work or whatever. And so, yeah, I started really exploring that. And that's
Mm.
kind of what got me to here because I realized that I could. I've been in remission now since 2020.
Oh,
Yeah. So, like almost 5 years.
yeah.
Um, and so I don't say that interior design is what was the key to that. Like, obviously not. You know, there was a lot of medicinal interventions and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
things that I did, but I know it played a key part. That I
Mm-hmm.
know for sure. And because I know that and I experienced it, I know that it can work for other people. I know that that's a part of well-being and a part of wellness for other people. It's like the next phase of wellness. I know you know, people talk about all the other aspects, but often don't talk about where you live. And that is
Mm-hmm.
hugely important because again, that's where we spend like 80% of our time.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. There's that literally could be the entire episode because there's so much there that I want to highlight. But the first thing that comes to my mind is you needing to restore your kind of baseline well-being to create that foundation to be able to heal fully. And knowing that and recognizing and having the strength to put yourself into an environment that you know would give you that foundation that you needed. I love that because that's what, when I'm talking with folks and working with folks, you know, a lot of times they're coming to me, and I even experience this in the like depths of darkness, right? Like
Mm,
your body's giving up on you. You know, I can relate to a lot of like the headaches, the physical symptoms that you start to feel, that's usually when people start paying attention to
Mhm.
burnout because they have to.
They have to,
Um,
right?
they have no other choice. And I'm always like, okay, you can't just focus on addressing those symptoms and expect everything to be hunky dory later on. But if you don't address those, you can't get into the bigger root stuff
Mhm.
and the root causes. So you have to get back to that, like restoring your well being and that foundation so that you can build off of it and get better and find yourself in a situation that heals you in whatever way you need that. I also love you talking about space and coming home and having that container. I love that you use that word, the container, to hold you and where you are and what you need. That's something that I have always like personally really tried to create is a home space or an office space that felt like home to me. It felt like a warm hug. It
Mm.
was also welcoming to other people. Like when I worked in higher education, that's where my background was. I like prided myself on my office space being a space where students wanted to come and just hang out or take a nap or whatever they needed because that was something that was important to me, but also I knew I was going to be my most productive and best self, not just productive for the job, but like productive for who I am.
Right.
And so I really appreciate that. And I really want to get into creating those sacred spaces, those sanctuaries within your home, your office space. Can you share maybe what that looks like in practice, some actual elements that make a space feel like a sanctuary for those listening that want to maybe re-examine their spaces that they're spending time in?
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to say one more thing that you made me think of when you were talking about the container. So I think that when you are going through processes of transformation, healing, those sorts of things, setting boundaries, all of that. Sometimes that is, change can be great, but it can also be disruptive, painful, uncomfortable. And so, yeah, that's where like having that place that feels like a hug, it's like there's one part of your life where everything is shifting and changing and it's shaking, but
Mm-hmm.
then you've got this place where you can ground and you're going to feel rooted, and it's
Mm.
you can anchor
Yes.
into. um so yeah, creating spaces and beginning to create a sanctuary in your home or in the place that you work. I think it can start small. Sometimes when people think about design or think about making changes, I think really expansive and get overwhelmed by the thought of like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to change my whole entire house, and who has the time, and it's gonna cost so much money. Um, but I don't think it has to be that way. I think there are small, incremental, and sometimes free things that you can do to make adjustments in um, how we're going to like focus on home right now because that's the place that we often
Yeah.
have the most control. At work it can kind of be a little bit different, although there are some things that you can do like in your workspaces. So I go into a lot of homes often, to do site visits or to talk to people. And whether I'm working or not, when I go to anyone's home, I'm always like analyzing any space. Like I'm always like in the back of my mind, like taking it all in, like, what's
Mm-hmm.
there. Um, and so some simple things that I often notice is sometimes like something as simple as opening your windows, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like letting in natural light. Um, Blinds. I have a few friends that are from other countries, people who were not born here. And I remember having a conversation with one of them in particular. Shout out to my friend Sharon if she listens to this. But we had this conversation. She was like, "What is it with Americans and covering the windows? Like, who is going to be looking at you? What are you so afraid of? You don't want the sun? You've got the blinds, and then you've got the screens, and then you have all this protection in your windows." And I was like, I never thought about it like that because
Good
it's
point.
got, like a second nature. But yeah, I go into homes, and I used to be this way too. I when I sleep, I like it very, very dark. But even, during the day, I just wouldn't really, I didn't have the time. I didn't open the windows. Now I have really large windows in my home. Um, and they're, at least in the living spaces, they're open, they're letting the natural light in. Because I've realized I am a person that really needs a lot of sunlight. Sunlight
Mm-hmm.
directly affects my mood. So the roughest times for me are like the winter, the winter season. But opening your windows, and like literally opening the windows and letting fresh air in, so that, you can circulate air. A lot of times we have things that are in our home that are plastics and, are off gassing, and, so we need to, um, have good indoor air quality, but also just letting sunlight in. So like, opening the windows to the natural sunlight is like a really easy thing. In terms of like air quality, if you can get, something like a air purifier, that's really nice to have, especially for folks who have allergies, and suffer with things like asthma. Um, I think another simple thing would be like, what objects do you have in your space?
Mm-hmm.
So if we're talking about, say, the bedroom, again, another place that we spend a lot of time in, what does that look like? Can you freely walk around to get to either side of your bed? Do you have art in there that is calming, that is relaxing? Is it really, really cluttered? Um, if one of your hopes and goals is to eventually call in a relationship, is it set up so that someone else might want to spend time in there with you, that sort of thing? And so when we talk about object placement, I have also studied, Feng Shui and some of the other,
Mm.
modalities. It's important to think about what you're bringing into your space. So the artwork, the books that are around in your area, I think can also feed how you feel and how you show up. And then balancing elements. So,
Mm-hmm.
I know I live in Jersey. When I go to certain parts of Jersey, and I like to go to open houses and look at, those type of
Yeah.
things. A lot of people use a lot of wood. Like, I think, sometimes the spaces are not balanced when it comes to thinking about the different elements like earth, fire, water, air. I've gone into places and it looks like you're just like walking into a treehouse, and even
Mm-hmm.
that can feel sometimes heavy. So I think there are small things that you can change. Lighting is another key one. Um, Overhead lighting can feel very oppressive. It's not great. Just the way that it is when you go to work and you've got the fluorescent lights like beaming down on you. You can change your entire environment if you let go of using fluorescent lighting and bringing in lamps.
Mm-hmm.
Lamps, small lights throughout the space creates a mood. Um, Switching to red, light bulbs, like for your bedroom or even for your entire living space after a certain, time of evening to work with your circadian rhythm so that
Mm-hmm.
your body understands, hey, it's 8 o'clock. We're beginning to wind down because in a few hours we're going to go to sleep, so that you can still see. But again, it signals to your brain, that it's time to it's time to begin to rest. And that's the kind of light you see when the sun begins to go down. Um, you know, some other things like we all know about the phones, not keeping your phone near you all
Mm-hmm.
the time, not keeping your phone in your bedroom. So those are like some simple things. Mirrors, using those to make spaces feel more expansive, looking at what colors you're using in your space,
Mm-hmm.
whether you want to paint or whether it's something as simple as I want to bring in some pillows or some art that, feature colors that are energizing or calming or, whatever you need to feel.
Yeah. Yeah. When you were talking about that, it made me think of like my living room. And I think why I was so drawn to our house that we live in now is the color in the main space. So we have an open main space. So kitchen, dining, living, all kind of one space, which I like, but I think also like for me, we've learned, my husband and I, it limits our art ability for like on the wall because you don't have as many walls. And we have a lot of
Mhm.
windows, which I loved because I like the natural light. And my husband could probably sit in a cave and be fine, but I'm like, no, let's open the windows, let's get the blinds open. I definitely love the natural light. but the color of the wall, which you can change obviously, but like when we moved in, it was a perfect color for us because it was a calming blue, like a sea blue color. And I was like, I love this. And it was a perfect combo because we have a fireplace. So when you were talking about the elements, like I was thinking like, okay, we've got the wood floor.
Yeah.
We've got the calming like sea color wall, the light that comes in, but I can, when it's cold outside, which is not often here in North Carolina, but when it's cold, like we can pop, that fireplace on. And it does like, I've lived in a few places. I've moved around. Like I think we calculated last time I've like had 17 moves, but this is the place that has felt most home to me because of all of that, I think.
Yeah. Those things are important that you pick up on that, like even as you are trying to choose a place to live. It's like, oh, I'm drawn to that. This feels good. Those pings, those references, those inclinations, pay attention to those things.
Yeah.
And when they come up and it's like, this is uncomfortable, or I don't know, you may not be able to explain why. Maybe feel completely irrational. No explanation. Doesn't matter. If it doesn't feel good, what can you do to make those adjustments? And I think you're right about the open concept. I don't know if we're going to be stepping away from that a little bit more, but taking all the walls down. I have loved open concept. I really have. But my current apartment, I moved 2 years ago from an open concept, has more walls, and it's been nice. It's been
Yeah.
nice to have separation
Yeah.
and walls.
I like the separation idea. And like for some people, we are not huge like party throwers or anything like that, or like gatherings. So I can see like if you're in a setting like that where you're an entertainer and you really like to have people, like having that open concept would be really nice. But for me, like I don't want to look at the mess in the kitchen if it's there all the time, because back to what you were talking about, like chaos, I need a very tidy space. I am one of those folks, and so I do not function well in clutter. I too am very sensitive to physical clutter, just noise clutter, all of that. So I think I miss some of that like separation.
Yeah, and when you
like out of sight, out of mind kind of thing.
right, when you don't have walls, it becomes, I mean, you can always use furniture. There are other methods,
Yeah.
right? But it's a little more challenging to create pockets, right? Because what what we were talking about, ways to include this in your home, like you don't have to do your whole entire space, right? It could be a little corner of a room where it's like your little reading nook, or maybe it's just your bedroom, or but when you don't have walls and everything is wide open, it's a little bit more of a challenge. Not impossible, but it can be challenging. And I'm similar, like loud noises, bright colors. Like I get overstimulated very, very easily. And so to retreat, especially if not right now, but if I was living with someone, I would need like pockets. I need to close this door and you be on the other side of the wall and I'm on this side of the wall, because I've got to retreat. I've got to restore. Like I've got to start all over again. And there needs to be some division.
Yeah. What's been killing me, because I've worked remotely now for several years, and I've had a dedicated office space for that because I know I need that separation just mentally, because I know how I am with work and crossover and all that. And it's been killing me because I have a knee injury, so I can't work at my desk as much as I usually do. So I've been having to work from the couch, which is like so not my typical preference.
Speed, yeah.
Oh man. And it's like even just the clutter that's causing, because like I've got my computer and my mouse and like the webcam and all that kind of stuff, and like little things that are piling up on the coffee table, like that is not functioning well for me. But I know it's a short-term thing. So
Yeah, and even with that, like subconsciously, because neuroscience is part of this. Now your body will associate those areas where it's supposed to be your rest and relaxation and pleasure areas with the fact that you do work there, which is why a lot of people recommend that you don't bring things like TVs and laptops into your bedroom, because when your body, when it goes in, it's wide awake. Oh, then we're going to work here now. It's time to work, right? It's time to be on. It's time for the ideas.
yeah.
And you're saying, no, now I want to relax, but it's very very similar to how you train a dog. Like this is where I go to work. Like this is where I do my thing. So your brain is going to be giving you the ideas, but you're like, no, I want to rest. So even that, like where you are doing the more yang, more active, more the energizing activities is
Mm-hmm.
important because you're you may not consciously recall that, but subconsciously your body remembers. Your body is always taking messages in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's such a good point. So I want to we talked a little bit about like some small tweaks people can make to better fit their environment, but I also want to talk about maybe some subtle design elements in our homes or our offices that might be unknowingly draining our energy or reinforcing some outdated beliefs that we might have. What are some things that we may want to pay attention to that we could then tweak and change?
Hmm. Um, Starting with some simple things, I would say one of the big ones is um, your collections,
Mm.
clutter. What kind of
Can
things are
you
you
tell my
holding?
husband that like loud and clear, please?
And I'm starting with that one because I think this is the one that's toughest for most people,
Yes.
right? Like, um, I also used to be a person to kind of just hold on to everything because someone gave this to me and I really like
Mm-hmm.
that person and it was a gift. I can't just get rid of it. Um, but yeah, I learned to get rid of it because there again, everything is energy, right? So
Yeah.
if everything is energy, and it is, that's been proven, science proves that, and ancient wisdom has been telling us that for centuries, then the attachments, the stories, the energy that's associated with an object, um, things can make spaces feel heavier and also bring to remembrance maybe things that you've moved on from or you're no
Mm.
longer um, looking to be associated with or looking to manifest. So I suggest looking at your collections, looking at the things that you're holding on to, holding them in your hand physically and taking a few moments, a few deep breaths and what does this mean to me? Why is it here? What memories are associated with this thing? Holding it, does it even feel heavy? Does this make your stomach flip flop when you're kind of holding it because of the person who gave it to you? And are you holding on to it because of obligation? Because
Mm.
someone you like gave it to you or something like that. Have you even used it? Like, when was the last time you picked this thing up? And I've been going through that when it comes to collections and the things that we hold on to, being more aware and conscious may be helpful in moving through the process of letting things go. And I say moving through the process because it's not easy
Right.
to for many people to say, nope, I'm editing, I'm getting rid of it. And I encourage the perspective of not like I'm getting rid of it and I'm throwing it away, but maybe I'm giving it a different home. This is no longer serving me. I've gotten the gift of this piece, this object, this book, this whatever it is. I've gotten what I needed from it. And now someone else may be able to really benefit from it.
Mm.
So maybe I need to pass it on because this thing still has a life and still has more to give, but to someone else. Not
Mm.
not me,
Mm-hmm.
not here. I'm ready to pass this on. So I think that's a good practice to start to look at um, clutter and collections. When we talk about, I mentioned this before with art and books. So if you are I think a lot of the work that can be done in homes is like it starts with an inside job. What are what are you looking to achieve, manifest? What are you looking to feel? So asking questions like that, taking a moment, maybe doing a meditation. I create with my clients spatial affirmations often. So kind of sitting in your space and really imagining, like visually seeing yourself walk through your ideal space. What would it look like? What would
Mm-hmm.
you see? Um, where are you in your life? Are you trying to get a new job? Are you trying to manifest more friendships? Are you trying to, do you want to feel more of a sense of belonging? I think those desires are um, the secrets and elements to what you can bring in your space. So if it's, say you want to call in a new job, then perhaps look to the things that you see when you walk into your home. So, are they communicating to you the confidence that you need, maybe giving you messaging about how you need to move forward as far as the job that you want to get? Are they confidence building? So, if you have books that are related to like getting that next job, maybe those are some things that you want to like maybe put in your entryway or put on your bookshelf at eye level so that you can see them.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, subconscious is always picking up those things. Um, if you're looking to feel more grounded, more rooted, even looking at the type of furniture that you have. I have noticed in my space, I have tended to be transient a lot in my life. And so all of my furniture sits up on high legs. A lot of my furniture is very
Mm.
leggy because I am always often like, nope, I'm not staying here long. I'm getting ready to go. And so there's not a lot of furniture that I have that sits on the floor, that's solid and grounded and sits on the floor.
Mm.
So even things like that, what does your furniture look like? Does everything look like it's floating? It's just floating
Yeah.
on the floor because that may, again, subconsciously communicate to you like, this is not stable. Like we're
It's
not,
not permanent. Yeah.
it's not permanent. I can't rest here. I can't get too comfortable here. Um, and so that's another, few subtle things that you can look at. The positioning of your furniture. When you come into your home, are you able to freely walk from room to room? Or are there objects that you've got to like jump over, move around? That's friction.
Mm-hmm.
You come into your space and there's Amazon boxes or there's just stuff that you've got to navigate through. So now instead of coming in and like relaxing and letting the day go, you're still on, you're still, maybe going in and out of fight or flight because it's like, well, now I've got to how to figure out how do I get from here to here and how to get to the bedroom or get to the bathroom and all of those kind of things because you got to navigate your space because there's no clear flow to
Mm-hmm.
get to where you want to go. Um, we talk about rituals when we talk about designing your space. Perhaps one of the things you would like to do is you have a writing practice and you'd like to have more integration of your writing practice or ways to encourage yourself to feel like writing more. So maybe for you, that is, I want to start my day with a cup of tea or a cup of coffee and then move right into the little nook that where the sun comes in just right and I'm cozy and, this is my favorite chair. So let's set up your home in that way. Um, where is the tea and the coffee, where are those goods to get your day started? Are they easily accessible or do you have to get up and like figure out where everything is and then pull it out? And because if there's friction there, you're going to be less likely
Mm-hmm.
to engage in that because it's like, oh, now I've got to find it. I've got to boil the water. But maybe you set up a station in your kitchen,
Yeah.
and then in the evening you prepare your space the night before because this is where I'm going to write, and I've got my books already set up. I've got my writing, my favorite pen and everything. So I think there are things that we can do with intention when we're designing with intention that communicate to us without us even having to know, so that you can kind of set your life up to have different outcomes, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense.
Yeah. First off, I feel like you were in my home because a lot of things you were describing, like the Amazon boxes, woof. Because we get like our dog food delivered and we've got 5 dogs, so it's a lot of food all the time. And
Mhm.
there's always a box of dog food sitting at the front entry. Now, we don't really use our front entry. We come in through the back anyway, so that's not necessarily like our entryway, but I was like, damn, she just called me out because we got Amazon boxes, but I do have my coffee station because that is one thing that I'm very clear about. But one thing I collect are mugs, coffee
Mhm.
mugs, because I like the process of coffee, but I have way too many mugs. Like, you can only use one mug at a time. So
Right.
no
Right.
one needs 100 mugs. But yeah, I think, Nicole, I could talk to you all day because I love this kind of stuff. I told you, like, this is my jam. And I think you've shared so much, just tiny tweaks of what to pay attention to, kind of what to look out for, things that we can change, even just lighting, like you said. Like my husband loves the overhead lights with the, it feels like you've got a friggin' spotlight on you. And I'm
Hmm.
like, no, we're gonna put on like 25 lamps because
Yes.
I prefer that warm tone of
Right. And
lighting.
the mood. It creates a mood.
It
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
But I know we are at time and I want to be cognizant of that. So I have one more question for you that I ask every guest. And that is, this podcast is all about balanced living with badass results. Hence the name, the Balanced Badass Podcast. So my question for you is, how do you define being a balanced badass in your own life?
Mm. I think this is a definite work in progress for me. I am
Love it.
still working on the balance part. I think the badass is definitely coming together.
Nice.
I'm further down that road than I am on the balance part. And that has just been from um, being brave and just being bold in my life. And like we talked about earlier, just stepping outside of my comfort zone and being true to myself as far as like my boundaries, as far as kind of like what I want to do, just being kind of less concerned about
Mm,
what other people are going to think. Because I think the fear of what other people are going to think or say is what keeps many of us small and keeps many of
yep.
us living in the boxes that we've been told that we have to stay in. Now, the balance part, that looks different depending on kind of where I am in my life and
Sure.
what's going on. I am an entrepreneur. Um, right now I have a few different, I don't want to call them hustles, but activations that bring in income. And so entrepreneurial life is not one that is kind of when you're starting off, I don't think that it allows for um, balance. So I'm trying to create that. I think I'm still
Mm-hmm.
looking for ways to create that and creating rituals and creating opportunities where I can say, you know, try to start off my day with me first. What do I need to do for myself to be able to show up in the world, functioning in the way that, um, as the woman that I want to be, like that I'm proud of and that, is authentic to me. And so, yeah, I'm still working on the balance part.
Yeah,
I'm up and down, if I'm
that's
honest.
fair.
Yeah.
I think, though, that honest answer is important because to me, balance is about where your energy is, and you choose how your energy goes so that you feel balanced in that season of life. And
Mhm.
one way that I describe balance is like someone on a balance beam, like a gymnast on a balance beam. Like they're not standing straight up all the time. They're wobbling and shifting their
Yes.
energy and their weight around, and
Yeah.
that's to me what balance is like. It's sometimes you have to give more to your work, and that is, if that is fueling you and giving you the energy and the life that you need in that moment, that's okay. Like you don't have to be perfectly 50-50 balanced work and life and all that. Like first
Yeah.
off, that's not even realistic, but I think that's fair. And many of us, we're all just a work in progress trying to figure this out. So,
Yeah,
um,
I think that is more accurate to where I am. I'd say it's more about harmony and the ebb
mm-hmm,
and kind of the ebb and flow and really just if I could say anything, learning to trust myself.
mm-hmm,
Like when I feel like, oh no, I need to rest, not overriding that and saying, no, but you got this checklist, you got this checklist. It's like, no, but my body said I need to rest. So
honoring
I've
what
got
you
to
need.
honor that and trust that what's for me is still going to be for me and still going to be there, even if I have to take a few days or a few weeks off.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think if nothing, you learned that from your experience back in 2018. So really kind of,
Yeah.
you need to honor that for your
I
health
have
and
no
well-being.
choice.
Yeah,
Exactly. Because nothing
yeah,
is worth like there's nothing that's worth sending me back to where I was. I'm not doing
absolutely.
that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
Well, if folks want to learn more about your work, if they want to connect with you, where can they find you?
so many places. I was just talking to ChatGPT last night about like, how do I streamline all these channels I'm
Oh,
on?
Lord, I know.
But when it comes to my design work, Brave Heron Studio is my website. And so that's braveheronstudio.com. You can find me at Brave Heron Studio on Instagram. And then when it comes to me personally, um, I am Nicole Rivers on Instagram is my handle. And then if you're interested in following my kind of like lifestyle pole journey type of thing, that's at Still Unfolding on YouTube. Still
Oh, I
Unfolding on
like that.
YouTube and Still Unfolding on TikTok. So
Cool.
there's a few places that you can reach out to me.
Yeah. And I'll be sure to link everything in the show notes so it's easy to find you and connect with you. But I just want to
Absolutely.
thank you so much for your time. I had a blast and learned so much from you. And I can just tell, like, your energy, for those watching on YouTube, like, you'll be able to see it. Like, you bring energy to the screen. And I love that. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been such a pleasure. I've enjoyed this conversation immensely, and I enjoy your podcast. You've had some tremendous guests on here, and I think this topic is definitely timely, especially in the season that we're in right now and the way that the world is moving. And one last thing, I wanted to share that I will be sharing with you, and you can put it in the show notes for
Yeah.
a complimentary holistic space review for
Oh, yeah.
your listeners and your viewers, where they can engage with me for 30 minutes, and I can give them feedback, send me pictures and video of their space, and I can give them feedback on what I intuit from the space and some suggestions if they're interested in beginning on the path to creating small sanctuary spaces, or just kind of like creating more of um, attracting more wellness and more well-being into their spaces. So that's
Awesome. Thank
something.
you so much for that. I appreciate that. I'm sure folks will take advantage of that, and I hope folks do. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I think we're going to wrap up. I just want to ask everybody, as always, if you're loving these kinds of conversations that, go beneath the surface, just make sure you're following the show. Share it with a friend. Would love it if you'd leave a quick review if you haven't already, just because it helps more badass burnout professionals find their way back to balance. And we all know that's what I'm all about. So until next time, take care of yourself, friend, and your space.
Thanks for hanging out with me on the Balanced Badass podcast. I hope today's episode brought you a little more balance and a lot more badass in your day. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, share it with a friend, and leave a review. Your support helps more multitaskers like you find the show, and I'd really appreciate it. Until next time, take care of yourself and make good choices, friend. I'll catch you next week.